Good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of 28 of my Road to Ironman series. This week was a pretty busy week, but before we dive into training peaks, let's make some coffee. Oh no! I messed it up at the very end. Oh boy. What the? What the? Told you guys, I suck at latte art. Alright, now that we have our coffee, let's take a look at the training for week 2. Let's start off with the overall metrics for the week. As I mentioned, this was a very busy week. The total training duration was just under 16 hours, so 1545. The total TSS was 775, which I still don't really know. I don't have a good idea of what that represents, but it seems high. Swim duration was an hour 40, and those were mostly just the swim portion of my water polo practices. The corresponding swim distance was about 5.8K. The bike duration was 6 hours 15, so the total bike distance was about 170, which is a pretty big week for me. I don't think back in the peak training for my 70.3 I ever hit that kind of duration on the bike, nor distance. Run duration was 3 hours and a half for a total distance of 39 kilometers. So that's quite a bit. It's not a crazy amount of running, but given that the week before I did 16, the week before that I did 16 again, it's quite a bit for one of the first weeks back. I worked out at the gym for about 2.5 hours, and I had about 2 hours of actual water polo practice where I wasn't wearing my watch. And so that's just in the section other, where I just manually logged in about an hour for the practice. For the week, I have a fitness score of 80, a fatigue of 111, and a form of minus 36. Still don't really know what that means. At some point, I'll have to actually investigate and get a better understanding of what those numbers mean, but for now, it's okay. Continuing in line with the weekly summary, my watch automatically tracks my sleep. So you can see here at the start of every day, there's metrics logged. For sleep, I'd say on average, I was hitting about 6 hours, sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. This year for 2026, one thing I definitely want to focus on and improve is my sleep. With this amount of training and impact on the body, recovery is going to be very important, and sleep plays a big part in that. 6 hours is probably not going to cut it anymore. I really want to try and get 7 to 8. That being said, my HRV was pretty good this week. Every day it seems to be ranging from 100 to 130. That's pretty good for HRV. HRV is kind of a personal metric. Just because mine's high doesn't necessarily mean it's better than someone else's, but it's in my normal healthy range, which is good. Yeah, midway through the week I was starting to feel a little sick. I just had a cough. It was nothing crazy. So overall this week I felt pretty good, but it was a very busy and demanding week. So by the end of it, and we'll touch on that shortly here, but by the end of the week I was pretty tired, fatigued, and sore. Spoiler alert, I might pay the consequences in the following week. Side note, little side note here. I've actually recorded this video twice already. When I record with a camera with my monologue, I record my screen with the training peaks, and for whatever reason, I cannot find those training peaks recordings. And so at this point, I decided I'm just gonna re-record the video with training peaks. So let's hope I don't lose this recording again, because I don't wanna have to record this a 4th time. So with that, it is now Friday, February 6th. So it's a week later, but focusing on week 2 here. So that was the overall week. Now let's dive in to each individual day and workout, starting with Monday. So Monday morning, I had an easy ride scheduled. I think it was just under an hour. Yeah, a 54-minute easy ride. Nothing too special. Just had to hold my power at 145. For now, I just use erg mode for almost all my workouts. I kind of just want to be able to disconnect and not have to think about the power. I just want to spin, let my legs and the bike, and Zwift, I should say, do the work. As we progress in my training, I will try and rely less and less on erg mode. My coach Louis, as well as many triathlon podcasts I listen to, emphasize the point that you don't want to become too reliant on erg mode. You want to be able to learn how to control your power, because on race day, there's going to be a lot of hills and you're going to actually have to shift your gears in order to be able to output the same power for the same cadence. So it's just a skill that I have to learn and get used to. But for now, my view is, what is my view? My view is you're working out so much for an Ironman that it's okay to make small compromises and inefficiencies in your training if it means you're getting the training done. What I mean by that is, in this case, I have an hour-long recovery ride. Making it a little easier by simply having erg mode on, which makes the workout more appealing, which means I get the workout done, is favorable over not having erg mode and then the workout seeming even more difficult, and then I'm more likely to not do it. Yeah, so it was just an easy ride at 145 watts. Nothing too special there, and felt good. Later in the day, so as many of you know, in Toronto on Sunday, we had somewhat of a snowstorm. So I was supposed to have water polo practice Monday evening. It got canceled. So instead, I decided to go to the YMCA and do a bit of a gym workout and then an easy swim. I'm not sure why they're ordered like this, but pretty sure I did the gym first. It was mostly upper body, but right now, since I'm still getting into the routine of hitting the gym, the first time you hit the gym in a while, it just makes you really sore. So I'm trying to ease into the gym so that I don't have extremely sore legs from a heavy leg day. So yeah, this was a short gym session. It was very crowded. I hate going to the gym or the pool in the evening. It just gets really crowded, but I was able to get my workout done. I made a note here, my bench press is weak. A triathlete doesn't need to be big, they just need to be fast. Yeah, felt good. Then I did the swim, but I didn't have the workout printed or written out, so I just did my own thing. Yeah, so here's me ranting a bit in the notes. Why do slow people go in the fast lane? Unfortunately, that's just how it is with a crowded pool. So that was Monday. Moving on to Tuesday. Alright, so Tuesday was a pretty solid day. In the morning, I did a VO2 max workout on the bike, and as I mentioned last week, my coach Louis designs most of my workouts now. I don't think I mentioned it last week. I had actually originally signed up for an online training program through my pro coach. So the next 28 weeks were already planned. I had all the workouts designed by my pro coach. So I signed up for that program, I paid for it and everything, and then after signing up, Louis and I set up a bit of a coaching situation. I didn't realize Louis would be doing this much already, but Louis is kind of removing all of the pre-scheduled workouts and designing his own, which are definitely better and more effective than whatever was scheduled by the training plan. Not to hate on that training program, I think it's very good. I used my pro coach last year when I was training for my 70.3. It worked out great, which is why I signed up for it this year. It's just Louis is just a step above, and because we're working one-on-one, he can really tailor the workouts to me specifically, and I can give him feedback and he can adjust the workouts as needed. Kind of too bad I paid for the program, but it's okay. It's a sunk cost that I'm willing to accept. Okay, that being said, so the VO2 max workout. Yeah, it was a pretty good workout. Louis made mention that it wasn't that intense in terms of VO2 max, just to ease into these workouts. Tuesday morning, my sleep wasn't great, and yeah, I had a bit of a cough, and for some reason my left foot was bugging me, which is strange because I didn't run the day before. And by the end of the ride, my foot was still hurting me a bit. My foot's fine now, so obviously it wasn't too serious, but it was bugging me during the ride. And that's something I find difficult about training for an Ironman. When you're training for an Ironman, you're not simply training to get a certain time or pace. A big chunk of the training is getting you to a point where you can actually finish the race, which means to a certain extent you have to complete the workouts, because if you're not doing the necessary workouts, you're just not going to be at a point where you can physically finish a full Ironman. And so that being said, I find it difficult sometimes because there's times where little injuries, pains, and soreness creep up where now at 27, which isn't that old, but at 27 years old, I'd be careful and I'd try to listen to my body and say, ooh, like something's hurting, I shouldn't push it, because I don't want to risk getting injured and then not actually being able to train or do the race. But on the other hand, I need to do these workouts or I won't be able to do the race. So there's this balancing game where it's, okay, are you actually injured or hurt and you actually have to stop? Or is it one of those normal pains and soreness that you'll get throughout the training and you just have to ignore and push through it? And I am definitely capable of ignoring and pushing through it, which has been my flaw in the last 3 years, because I always ignore it and I overdo it and then I actually get injured. So yeah, I have to be careful, but fortunately in this case, my left foot, it wasn't anything too serious. I enjoyed that ride very much. Having these intervals makes these rides go by so much quicker. I did make a note, and I spoke to Louis about this, that although this was supposed to be an intense workout, and I do feel like I was pushing myself, my heart rate never went over 150, which is kind of odd. Like my max heart rate is like what, 190 something? That was a little odd. And the conclusion we came to was that I wasn't pushing hard enough. I guess I'm not actually getting very close to my full limits, and so that's something that I have to try to focus on. When the scheduled workout is meant to be intense, I have to push myself. And on the flip side, when it's meant to be easy and a recovery, I have to hold back and make sure I go easy. So yeah, that was a fun workout. Later that evening, oh, and actually I remember now, my foot was still hurting later this day. In the evening, I was supposed to do an easy run, and I got dressed, I got ready, I warmed up, stretched, I went outside, and my foot was still bugging me, and it was one of those moments where I was thinking, is this really a good idea to go do this run, especially since the next day I had a long run. So I started to walk back towards my apartment, and then I thought, you know what, let's just run 1K. Let's see how it goes. And so I started running, and I just kept going, and it ended up being fine. And it was a really fun run. Running outside in the cold is fun. I've said it before, it's like skiing. You don't notice the cold that much if you're dressed properly. The one downside about running outside in the cold is with all the snow and the slush on the ground, it's slippery, so you have to watch your step, and you have less grip when you're running, so you end up putting more effort to run at a slow pace. So you run slower, and also I think the cold makes it harder to breathe or something. Like your effort is just higher for an easier pace. So this was supposed to be an easy run, and I was going at a relatively slow pace, but I think it probably exerted more effort than it was supposed to. Probably closer to zone 3 than 2. There was also just all the sidewalks were blocked off because of the snow, so there was a lot of running behind people and having to walk and stop and wait. So maybe this was one of those runs that I should have simply done on a treadmill. But overall, a good day, and my foot was feeling fine after. Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we had a long run. This one I did do on a treadmill because it was dark outside. I think I've said it before, but what I don't like about winter running is running in the dark. I don't mind the cold. I guess, again, for this one, my sleep wasn't great and just wasn't feeling it that morning. My foot was still bugging me. And so I remember I was really debating whether or not I should do this run. And again, I said, let's just go upstairs because there's a treadmill in my apartment and let's just try to do it and see what happens. So I warmed up, I started running, and my foot ended up not bugging me too much. I wore my New Balance trainers, which have a really thick, squishy outer sole, so that probably helped with my foot. I love those shoes, by the way. They're very chunky and kind of heavy, but they're definitely comfy, which for me and with my history of foot injuries is great. That being said, running an hour 15 on a treadmill is rough mentally. You're just staring at the treadmill or a window for a long time, and it goes by very slow. About a third of the way through, there was a change in pace, but nothing much, so it was mostly more of the same the whole run. I didn't make any notes if I brought any carbs. I'm sure I brought a water bottle with some sort of carbs. I don't think I brought a gel since it was an easy-ish run, but I was sweating a lot. Definitely got a lot of sweat over the treadmill, so note to self for the next one, bring a towel. Later that evening, I had a water polo practice, and it wasn't canceled. We had a swim set for about 35 minutes. Felt decent, but tired. Like, we do pretty legit swim sets, but they're more sprinting based as opposed to long distance based. And I'm a good swimmer either for sprinting, I think my 50 is probably decent, and for long distance. Have me do 3K, I'm fine. But that in between, the 100 to 200 repeats, they just kill me. I don't know. And then we had a scrimmage. It's unfortunate I can't wear my watch to record these because I'm sure I'm burning a lot of calories and building up my TSS during water polo, but you can't wear watches for water polo, so I guess we'll never know. Thursday was a recovery day. I went to recovery to do the sauna cold plunge. I don't know if it's that beneficial, if it's really helping me recover, but it feels nice, and I have a membership and I've accumulated credits, so I gotta use up those credits before I cancel. So Friday. On Friday, I had another bike ride. This was more of an endurance ride. So I guess an endurance ride is a step above an easy recovery ride. High zone 2, low zone 3. On Thursday, I went to Black Toe to pick up some of the caffeinated Mortein gels because they had a sale going on for these, and they're new in Canada, so I want to try them out. And so I decided, why not try one during that ride? It wasn't an intense ride, so I normally wouldn't have a gel, or at least an expensive gel, and definitely not caffeine for a ride like this, but I was just excited to try it. So I tried one of these gels. It was good for anyone who's had a regular Mortein gel. They're pretty similar. It was kind of what I was expecting. A little saltier and maybe a little thicker in consistency, but very similar. They're Mortein. They're good, but they're expensive, so use them wisely. I properly carved for this ride, doing 100 grams an hour, but I don't know why. I don't know why I started doing this, but I'm drinking way too much water on my bike rides. I'm now at about a liter an hour, which is too much, and I just constantly have to piss when when I'm riding my bike. So after this weekend, I spoke to Louis, and we were both like, yeah, why are you drinking so much? Tone it down, but just maintain that 100 grams an hour. Yeah, it felt good. I increased the power a bit, like the difficulty to 105%, following up the discussion I had with Louis where we concluded I wasn't pushing myself hard enough. And then after this ride, he said, yeah, no, don't do this for the easier rides, only the intense ones. So I increased the difficulty when I shouldn't have. I had a water polo practice scheduled Friday night, but it was late, and since I had one Saturday, I was like, I can't do this. So I did another gym earlier in the evening right after work. So this was an upper body workout. Just didn't want my legs to be sore, especially since I had a big day the next day. I didn't want my legs to be tired. So that was a good workout. And then I did another recovery session too, actually. I did the Normatec boots, like those massaging boots, and another contrast sauna and cold tub. So Saturday was a big day, and definitely too much. I started with a 2.5 hour ride, which was good. Once again, I drank too much water for this one. I was doing a liter an hour. I think I prepared 6 bottles for that. So I ended up drinking more than 3 liters, more than a liter an hour, because, well, first off, this ride was only 2.5 hours, and I had 6 bottles, and each bottle is more like 600 milliliters. But apart from drinking too much, the ride felt great. More of those intervals breaks up the ride. It makes it a lot less boring and a bit more challenging. I carbed properly, 100 grams an hour. I mostly had carb mix in my bottles, and then I had one of those Mortein granola bars, which are really yummy. They're about 40 grams. Near the end of it, I was probably getting kind of sick of the ride and fatigued, and my lower back was a little sore, but not too bad. The TT bars help a lot. Being able to just rest on the bars as opposed to holding myself up and having my back have to hold me up definitely helps. So I'm loving the TT bike. After that ride, I quickly got ready to go run. I ate one of these Precision Fuel energy chews. I love them. The fact that they can get 60 grams of carbs in this little thing and that it tastes so good is pretty crazy. Then I went on a run. It was just a 30-minute, relatively easy run. So I guess my hip was bugging me a bit, which is not good. The run itself was really fun. It was nice and sunny out, no complaints. And then I went to water polo practice. So that was the mistake on Saturday. Definitely should not have gone to water polo. After 3 hours of working out on your legs, I was just too tired. And we did a swim set. Unfortunately, for swim sets, I can use my arms mostly. And when I swim, I'm more of the strength comes mostly from my upper body. But in water polo, where you're doing a lot more wrestling, the legs get engaged a lot more. And especially when you're passing, my legs were starting to cramp at the end. It wasn't fun, and I think this week was a very demanding week. And this water polo practice was really I know it in French, la goutte qui a fait renverser le verre, the drop of water that made the glass spill. Is that an expression in English? Anyway, fortunately we got all-you-can-eat sushi after practice, so that kind of saved me. I definitely got my money's worth because I was starving. So that was water polo on Saturday, and I was exhausted. And finally, Sunday. So on Sunday, I had a tempo run scheduled. My legs were definitely still tired going into it, but we were able to get the run done. It was definitely pushing the pace. The workout itself was, we had a bit of a warm-up, and then the main set was 3 sets of 10 minutes in zone 3, and then 2 minutes in zone 4, and then a 3-minute easy run in zone 1. I was maybe pushing it a bit too hard in the first set for the zone 3, because I was running at about a 405 minute pace, and then the 2-minute hard I was running at sub 4-minute pace, and then in the second set I really had to slow that down. I went before 10 pace, and then 4-minute pace hard, and then 4:15 pace on the third set, and 4-minute hard. It was good. I definitely had to push myself for this one and remind myself, you can do it, like, don't back off too early. I wrote that my shoe was bugging me, so for this one I wore my Saucony shoes. Those are more of my tempo interval shoes. They don't fit me great. I'm not the comfiest. Usually a few kilometers in I get used to it, but yeah, not my favorite shoes. But as I was running I started to sweat a lot, and once my shorts were all wet and sweaty, it started to cause chafing, and my inner thighs were starting to burn. So it was tolerable, but it wasn't fun to have the inner thighs be burning like that. I was sweating a lot. I was pushing myself. Once it was done, I was satisfied with the workout. I thought it was good. I had a bit left in the tank, so maybe I could have pushed harder, but to be fair, looking back now a week later, I'm glad I didn't push any harder, because then my hip would really be bugging me right now. Oh, and maybe a quick note, this run I did at the YMCA on a treadmill at a 1% incline. So whenever I run on a treadmill, it's always at a 1% incline to make up for the fact that you don't have that air resistance when you're running. So overall, good run. And since I was at the YMCA, I just followed up that run with a quick strength training workout. Originally, I'd planned to do a leg workout, but after the weekend, my legs were cooked and there was just no chance I was doing squats or anything like that. So I did a bit of upper body, and then I did some relatively easy leg plyo exercises. And since the gym wasn't too busy, I was experimenting a bit with silly exercises. I got videos of that, so I'll throw it in here. And yeah, I cut the workout short. Originally I wanted to do an hour, but I was just tired, and I was also running late for Nikki's coffee hangout, so I had to get going. So I just wrapped up my workout, left the gym, and took the rest of the day pretty easy. So yeah, that was week 2. Like I said, it was a very busy week. I know later in my Ironman training, I'll have weeks that are even busier and longer. But given this is week 2, this was a bit much, and I might regret it next week. Spoiler alert, I do. But I'm very happy. I like seeing all this green on the screen and seeing all these workouts completed. I have to get going, so I'm gonna end it here. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Another example of the point I'm trying to get at here. As many of you know, I have a large collection of carbs, whether it's carb mixes, gels, even basically candy like energy bars and energy waffles. Yes, they're expensive, but the way I look at it, and especially for example these honey stinger waffles, when I wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and I'm just tired, your brain's in that state of like, I just want to sleep in. Adding more friction to getting the workout done, for example having to prepare breakfast or get dressed and prepare your shoes or your bike, whatever it is, makes it even more difficult to get that workout done. I usually make oatmeal in the morning, but sometimes I just grab one of these and then I'm good. I have my snack and I'm ready to do my ride or my run. So I guess what I'm getting at, my philosophy for Ironman training, but I guess this also applies to life, is you want to reduce the friction between you and getting the good habit done. So if working out is a good habit I want to do early in the morning, making breakfast adds friction, which I'm willing to do sometimes, and it's also why I make a simple, quick breakfast like oatmeal. But even then, it's too much, and then a little waffle like that is good. Yes, you can have your own, make your at-home carb electrolyte mix by just mixing sugar and salt, but it's just so much easier to buy the carbs, and it tastes good, and it removes the headache. So I went on a tangent there. What the hell? I'm kind of in line less with the friction, but and one last example. When it comes to running and biking, there's expensive athletic apparel out there now. There's Bandit. Like Lululemon used to be the expensive thing, and now Lululemon is kind of like the cheap running stuff in terms of cost. Now there's Bandit, there's Satisfy, there's Norda, there's Soar. There's all these running brands that it's like $200 for a running shirt, and they look really cool. And like there's a bunch of, it's like the new wave of hype beasts. You have your full Bandit outfit and these cool running brands. Anyway, it's easy to hate on that, but at the same time I get it. There's something about waking up in the morning and having your nice running shoes, your white socks, and your cool Bandit outfit already laid out in the morning, and just knowing you're gonna look good, that gives that little extra push to go run outside. Anyway, I don't know what kind of rant that was. All that to say, erg mode is okay. Anyway, an easy ride at 145 watts.